Hi, we're going to do this nice little quaint painting of purple flowers. This is where we're going today. So let's get started. In your kit, you have a pre-sketched canvas. You have a large piece of plastic that you want to lay down to cover your surface so that you're not making a mess on it. You have a tray that we're going to use as a palette with tubes of paint. You also have a small paintbrush and a piece of plastic. In this kit, you have 2 stencils and, of course, paper towel. What you will need that is not in the kit, however, will be a small amount of water. Just a small amount of water is all that's needed. All right, so let's get started. You want to lay your paints out, yellow, red, blue, and white. You won't need a whole lot, but enough to get the job done, so to speak. All right, let's get started. What we want to do is you're going to need one of your paper towels, you're going to need the paintbrush, and you're going to need the stencils. Now we're going to use the stencils twice. If you want to do more, you can, but I think twice is enough. We're going to place one in this open space up top, one in this open space on the bottom. And we're also going to place them on the opposite sides. So I want Dream to be on the bottom and I want Create to be up at the top. I'll probably swap those. I'll put the Create on the bottom only because it's a larger space and the word is a little larger. So I have the word Dream. I'll put it at the top over here. Now this is what we're going to do. Take your paintbrush and go directly into the blue paint, only a very small amount. We're going to use a dry brush painting with this right now. Small amount of paint, blue paint on your brush. Twirl it around in a circular motion on the paper towel. You're going to take the word Dream, the Dream stencil. It's going to go in this top section, so we're going to put it in the lower right-hand section first. And you can tilt it. I'm going to tilt it slightly upward. It's up to you. Now just lightly write the word Dream with your paintbrush. And I'm not trying to make it look great. Show you what I mean. See if you can see that. It's really light right here. It's not showing up so good. It's really light. So that's okay. I want it to be light. Now I'm going to dip that paintbrush back into the paint. And again, I'm going to twirl it around on the napkin. And I'm going to take the stencil and put it up here in the upper right-hand corner. And I'm going to tilt it slightly downward at a downward angle. Now I'm going to, again, use the paintbrush and write the word Dream on here. I'm not trying to make the stencil it really, really great. I just want some. So I have some missing parts here. Just add a little there. I got a little missing part there, which is okay. Move that to the side. Dip my paintbrush into the blue paint again. Not using a whole lot. Twirl it around, same space. This is dry brush painting. This is what you normally do when you stencil something. Just twirling it around. I got the word Create. So the word Create is going to go down here on the bottom, and it's going to, I'm going to tilt it slightly up. Since I tilted Dream down slightly to the right, I'm going to tilt Create up slightly to the right. So when I come up here, I'm just going to kind of go across, straight across. And I'm going to just lightly paint in here, not much. I don't want it too dominant. I want the word that's out in the open to be seen more than the word over here. There. So it's not real good. This is sort of a floater in the background and not to be seen as something close up to the viewer. So I'm dipping it into the brush into the paint again. I'm going to twirl it around on the napkin again. See, you're getting most of that paint off. Now, I have tilted some, but not too much because this word dream over here is tilted a lot. So now I'm going to paint in the word, really just writing it in. And that seems to work much better. Let's move that out the way. There, that. See how that word looks? It's good. Yeah. And since that is done, now we can go ahead, everything out of the way. We don't need those stencils anymore, so let's get that completely out of the way. Now we can go ahead and clean off that brush. Go ahead in the water, clean off your paintbrush, and dry it off. And set that to the side. Next, we're going to need that plastic, a small piece of plastic, and we're going to ball it up really nicely. Change this light. It's a small piece of plastic because I want you to cover a small area. We're going to use it for the background. It's balled up really tightly. We're going to dip it in the yellow, just a little. We don't want much paint. We're going to dip it in the yellow and then blot it on the paper towel like so. Now, dip it in the water, not much, just lightly kiss the water and shake the water off. Start in the very middle of the canvas and go around. You can go around to the right, you can go around to the left, it doesn't matter. You don't want to rub over your words too much so that they're not taking them off or erasing it. So now I'm going to scrub that water off onto my paper towel. And now I'm going to come here. I'm going to kiss the red just a little bit, not much. That's too much. Only need a little bit. And then dab it on the paper towel. Lightly kiss the water. Shake the extra water off. And now I'm going to come on the outside of the yellow circular paint that I put on there. And I'm going to go around it in red. A little bit more water. I need a little more water. And if you need more paint, you can come on the paper towel and take some of that paint. Put it on there. And we want it to be circular because we want it to look like it's radiating out of the center. Where the red and yellow kiss, it may give you a little orange, and that would be okay. Just come outward, and then wipe that off on your paper towel. Now I'm going to use a little glue. Dab it also on your paper towel. And then kiss the water. On the outside. How dark that is a little too dark, so I'm adding a little bit more water. And bring it down here. And I'm lightly rubbing it across the words. Otherwise, it may take them out. I'm just tinting the background. I'm not really coloring it in. And I want it to have those circular looking markings on it so that it looks like the color is radiating outward. Everything looks super light. I do apologize for that. I was trying to keep the whole thing in the screen. Let's see if we can move this a little bit. Right, and now we're going to move to the foliage. So you're going to take your paintbrush and you're going to get some yellow, small amount of blue. It'll give you a nice green. So it depends on how dark you want it. You add a little bit more blue and you get a dark green color. And then we're going to put in our foliage. So we didn't use a whole lot of water with this because we don't want to have to fight with the background drying and having too much water. It's going to be a little difficult because the paints are going to be wet into wet, but we're going to manage. So let's go ahead and lightly put in our foliage. And of course, those are my stems and the leaves. Now don't worry about staying in the line because often I don't stay in the line. I like to put the drawing on here as a reference and allow my artistic voice to just use that as a reference. So if I go outside the line, it'll be okay. You can see that on there. Now we're going to do the center. Oh, excuse me, there's some foliage up here. My drawing is not as good as yours. There's some foliage up here that we're going to get that with that green paint while we have it on that brush. Perfect. Perfect. Just enough. You just need enough on here. Not too much. And the reason being is because it's all the way in the background. So now we're going to take a little bit more yellow. Go straight into the yellow. I did not wipe my brush off. I went straight into the yellow paint. And now I'm going to go over the green that's back there. Oftentimes I tell you don't don't wipe your paint off because you create a nice variety when you do that. And you can go ahead. Now what we're going to do is do the centers of the flowers. This flower on this side has a center, brown center, and this flower here has a center. And since we already have some green, we're going to take and mix a little red in with our green to give us a brown color. Since they are complementary colors or opposite, they'll give us the brown. It's not going to look really great because you're mixing the colors. Don't worry about that. Just go ahead and mix it and then paint in. And I'm sort of dabbing it in with like a nervous hand. I'm not trying to make it nice and clean and smooth around. I'm just with a nervous hand, either dabbing it like this or squiggling it in. Just put it right on in the center. It's not going to be round either, so don't worry about it being round. You're just putting it in there. Once you do that, you can clean that brush off in the water. And then wipe the excess water off. Portions of your canvas may still be wet, and that'll be okay. So that we are finished with that, we don't need any more brown. I'm going to take my paper towel and just wipe that off. here we go. Now it gets a little bit more interesting. Remember to just relax, allow your artistic voice to come forward. We're going to paint the petals in 3 different colors, and then we'll add a little accent color. So we're going to use purple, then white, then yellow. And once we finish, we'll come back in and add a little red, okay, just to give it a variety and make it look more like what we would see in nature and not a flat wall. So here we go. We're going to take some blue. You need a good amount of blue because you're going to do the whole painting. Good amount of blue. And give it enough red to make that look like violet or purple and not the blue. Don't be afraid to add a little more. You need to add a little more, add a little more. And get a nice, deep, rich purple. Now your purple will either look like a blue violet or red violet, and it's okay, it doesn't matter. You just don't want it to be blue. All right, now I'm going to twirl my paintbrush or wipe the extra off. That, just wiping the extra off. And set that aside. Now what we're going to do is paint the flower petals that are behind this really big one by cleaning off our paintbrush. So go ahead and put a streak of paint on each petal. Just cleaning off that paintbrush. See that? It looks scraggly. It's not even touching where the green is. Because my green is so wet, I don't want to bother it. So now I'm going to go back into this purple paint and get a little bit more purple paint on there and paint these other. I'm just putting 1 purple streak on each petal. That's all I'm doing. There's one back up here. And there's one down here. I'm not painting the whole petal. I'm just putting a streak of purple on each of the petals. And I'm not touching the center. Just putting one, and it doesn't matter whether you're putting the streak of purple on the left or the right of the petal. It doesn't matter, or down the center. It doesn't matter. You just want to identify each of the petals in those flowers that are in the back. Identify them with some purple. Okay. Now we're going to go in and we're going to add white to each of the petals that we did. Here we go. Add some white to each of the petals, and you want to be able to paint over the petal. Go from the green and paint up over the petal. And you can hit that purple that you have there. It's okay. If you kind of run him out of town, it'll be all right. We'll go back later and find him again. So I sort of diffused it or turned the purple, that dark rich purple, into a lavender. You don't want to go back and forth over it. It's okay. We're just identifying the petals. Now let's do this one. Same way we did that one. I had a ton of white on here that I'm able to just paint on each of the petals. See that? I'm not covering up. On some of them, you can see some of the dark right next to where I put that white at. I painted over part of it, but not the whole thing, which is what you want to do. So don't go back and forth over it or keep painting it. Just put one little stroke and move to the next one. So now I'm going to do that one up there and this one down here. Those are still behind this main one. Paint over that one. Still identifying them. We want them to be kind of scrawny and not full like this big one in the front. There we go. And they don't look as shapely, but that's okay, as long as we know that they're there. All right. Now we can wipe that paint off. Just wipe it off on a paper towel. And now we're going to go into the yellow. Now we definitely don't want this yellow mixing in with the purple. So we're going to come over on the side where the white is. Place the yellow on the side where the white is. So when you put the yellow on the petal, make sure it's on the side where the white is, not the purple. And the reason being is because it will turn it brown. And then wipe that off and we'll go to the next flower. See that? It looks really scraggly. Not good looking right now because we're not finished with it yet. So we're going to add the yellow to each of the other petals. To this one. And you're trying not to add it where the purple is. Give you a brown color if you do. Depends on how close they are. Sometimes you can't help it, but we intentionally want to go where the white is and not where the purple is. So again, we'll wipe that brush off, go into the yellow, and let's put a little up here. And what I have left, I'm just going to go ahead and put it on this one over here. Now you can wash your brush off in the water and dry it off. Perfect. Now, while that is drying, we're now going to go to the really big one. Now, do not stress out the laying down of the paint. So as you're putting the paint on these petals, don't stress. What happens is they're overlapping, and so you're going to get, you may lose a few petals. You'll come back and claim them later. Your main thing is to just try to follow the shape of the petal and put some paint on each petal. So we're going to start out with that purple pile of paint that we made at first, that big pile of purple that we made. We're going to put the purple on the brush. We're going to go around. We want to do this kind of quickly so that when we start adding the white to it, it's still wet. So we'll have to do it kind of quickly, and don't be stingy with the paint. Otherwise, your paint will dry on you before you get all the way around the petal. Like my paint looks like I don't have that much left over here. And so I'm going to just add a little bit more blue to that and a little more red. Because I already see that I don't have enough paint. We're going to paint this in, and then we're going to add details also. Okay, so I've just added some more paint. And it doesn't have to be mixed in really, really well. I don't think it shows up on the camera, but when I look at it, I still see streaks of blue and streaks of red here and there. It doesn't have to be blended very, very well. Just enough. See how much paint I have? It's kind of globbed on. I don't want too much, but I need enough on there so that I can paint around each petal. We're going to put the paint on the left side of each petal. And when I say that, I mean I'm going to follow the line. There's a petal here, and I see the line of the petal that's here. And so I'm going to put the paint right on that line and press that paintbrush down. It's going to make it wide looking, which is fine because we're covering up the lines that we have. And then I'm going to go to the next one and the next petal. That looks like one right there. And the next petal, you follow the shape in the outline of the petal. And I'm going to end up going over. These petals are going to overlap over this flower here, which is what I needed to do. And it's going to push it in the bag, just like that. Pushed it in the background. Just follow the shape of the petals. Just add. See how I had to go over that stem that I put there? That's what you want to do. You just push that flower into the background. And just keep going. And if you happen to lose some petals, it's okay. We can find those petals later. Because you are creating a painting, which means I just gave you a reference outline, and you're going to allow your creative voice to just flow through. That's the reason why we generally don't have two paintings that look identical. I'm trying to make sure I got a lot of paint on these petals. There. That looks like a big gap there, so that tells me I probably skipped a petal. I'm just going to go in here and add one. Just like that. It's okay. You're painting this, so it's okay for you to make some adjustments. Now, I still have purple paint on my brush, and it's okay. I'm going to come straight into the white, and I'm going to put the white on the right side of the purple, but I want the white to kiss the purple, which means I don't want to have my white going in between. So if you can see that white is going in between. It doesn't touch this purple line at all. I'm going to bring it right here in the middle and let it touch that purple line. Watch this. It's going to touch that line. And when it does that, it blends for you, so you don't have to do the work. So I'm going to come right in here and touch the line. Just using white. The paintbrush is still dirty from the paint, the purple paint that we put on there, which is good. I'm going to the right of the purple, and I'm allowing the white paint to hit that purple paint and blend for me. We're not trying to do the work. We want to relax into this painting. Relax into the painting. So you need enough paint on there so that when you put the white down, it blends in with the purple that's already there. Plus it covers some of the petal that is not painted. Just like that. Just move on to the next one. If you need to turn your painting, you can turn your painting. Turn this and I'm still going to follow the shape that I already have. I'm not going to make a new shape. I'm going to follow this purple right to there. I'm going to follow this one from there all the way up here. I went out a little bit further with this tip. See the dark piece there, and this the tip here. That's okay. It'll just make it look like the painting turned, or the petal turned. You want the painting, you want the purple and the white to mix. See how it blends for you? It still looks scraggly, and what I mean by that is empty. You can still see that yellow and red background in here that we painted first. When you look at it real close, it may not be reading on the camera, but I can see yellow all in here, and I can see the red in here also, which tells me I'm not there yet. So I'm going to continue to add the white paint to the purple all the way around. It overlaps here or there, it's okay. Right here, my white overlap. I was painting on that side and it went right across it. Perfectly okay. I'm going to come right here and add some to that, right in between here. Right in between there. I'm making sure I put white on each one, following the shape of the petal that I already laid out. I'm painting over this one that's down there, which is okay. Sometimes we lose the background parts, and that's okay. Your eye can pick it up. It's amazing what the brain picks up. There. Oh, it's okay. Perfect. Now I'm going to wipe off that excess paint and clean that brush. Dry that off. Drawing the paintbrush off. I don't want that extra water on there. I'm not sure if you can see this on the camera. You see how by me putting my background paint on there, I have smudged the word dream there and the word create down here. So you may want it to be a little bit more predominant, but I don't. I want it to kind of fade in the background and make it look like it sort of swirled into the background to create this painting. I want you to be able to see the flowers more than you see the words. And sometimes when people are far off, the brain will pick this up and they may see that and wonder, what is that just sitting over there out of the way? Because your focal point is going to be here and you'll have these little words over here. I can see mine in here when I'm close up on it. Will distract the viewer when the viewer has stepped back and is looking at it or is approaching your painting. They'll notice something out of place and they'll be drawn to these little spots. So that's why I didn't want them to be so in your face. But they're there enough to cause someone's brain to pick it up and come closer to get a better look. And when they do, they'll be able to read the words. Okay, we're going to go into the yellow paint now. We want to add the yellow paint to the side that has the white on it. Now, just kind of look at it, because when you look at your painting now, you're going to say, that white looks like it's lavender now, but that's okay. So you don't want a ton of the yellow, but you want enough in there. So place it in there, right where the white is. And don't be stingy with it. You don't want too much, but you want to make sure it's reading and it's in there, that you can see it. If you're too stingy with it, my goodness, we won't see it at all. And we do need to see it. It's the complementary color of the purple. So that's why we don't really want it on the purple. We want it on the white. And you can put it, you see, I put it out here on some of the petals I put on the tip. And then a lot of them, I put it towards the inside. You can do that. Just put it on each one of them. Don't be afraid. If you need to wipe the paint off, wipe it off on your paper towel and then go back into the yellow paint. Try to make sure you put it on each petal. Each petal needs a touch of yellow. All right, now we can wash that off and dry that paintbrush. All right, now we're going to go about filling in, making this look super, super, super. Here we go. I'm going to take a little white and just a small amount of this purple. I'm going to make it a little lighter than what we normally did. I'm going to add some here and there to these flowers in the background. just this bit I made. Took some white and mixed it in over here with just a corner of the purple. It made it a really lighter lavender color, which is fine. And that's what we're going to use to fill in some of these background petals. Okay. Remember, we're not painting a wall. And I'm making sure to put it over some of the yellow where I have the yellow in the background. I'm not completely painting out the yellow, but I'm getting rid of some of the yellow. And the reason being is because these are in the distance and I don't want them to, the yellow to pop so much in them. And then I'll just wash that paintbrush off. Dry it on a paper towel. Now we have everything painted. Everything has been painted. We added more paint to these backgrounds, which is great. Going to go back in and add paint to here. Mine is still quite a bit wet, which means we may have to add a lot more paint. You won't be able to make those back and forth brush marks still because it'll blend it and make it muddy. So we're going to continue doing just one stroke. And when you put the one stroke of paint on there, you can see each color that you use. That's what we're going for. So we're going to do this purple, and of course I've used up most of the purple that's there. So I'm going to take some more blue and some more red. So another batch of purple here. And it may not be the same color as what you did before because it's really difficult to mix up the same color. And that's fine. We don't want the same color. We want it to vary. So we'll have shades of this purple. Now we're going to go back in and we're going to add more of that deep, dark, rich purple to this middle flower. So remember, we're not covering up, we're adding to. So we're going to start by adding it to where the purple is already. So we already have some purple here. We want to go down here, start here at this base to make sure it's dark in there. Then we just go up and over and keep going. And you have to use a really light hand and a lot of paint because the paint is still wet. I'm going over where I already have the purple, the dark purple. By the paint still being wet, it will come off. When I try to put paint on, it's going to take paint off instead. That's called wetting the wet, and it makes it difficult and frustrating. So just use a light touch and a lot of paint. Just go in and paint it. So that, just put it on there. Don't even worry about it. You don't want to, see if you can see it, you may have globs of paint in one area and nothing, barely anything in another area. See that? That's okay though. That's how you want it. So just keep adding dark paint. Add the dark paint where you have the dark paints already. Those parts should be pretty dry. It's the white and the yellows that won't be dry. And it's okay because it will cause it to blend in those areas too. Just pay attention to it because you'll notice that you're not putting paint down, however, you're taking paint off. And you don't want to do that. Sometimes you can't help it. Now, right here where these two flowers meet, I want to make sure I put some dark paint there. And here's if you can see it on mine, it's a gap in here. It doesn't even look like there's a petal. I'm just going to paint a petal in there. Add some more right on there. I'm going to do the same thing over here on this side. I'm going to follow this petal, the streak of purple here, and just kind of bring it over that flower that's in the background. You further push the flower in the background back, and you're making this big flower up front stand out. That's what you want. See, you can really see it now. That's what you're trying to do. Now, because I can still see a lot of the background in here, it's okay. We're just going to add some more purples in there, right in between them. It's the dark, dark color, and I'm trying to make this one in the front pull more of the viewer's attention. So that's why I'm just going in, filling in some little spaces, making it fuller. I want it fuller around this centerpiece. I'm not so much worried about this. I want it to be empty, sort of empty on the outskirts of the petals so that you can see the background that imitates nature. Lightly just stroke the paint real light. Otherwise, it just grabs the paint and pulls it off. It's like defeating the purpose of painting here. But that's wet on wet, and you can do it very well. Now, what I am going to do is take the purple and tap it just a little bit in here, not much, just a little in that center. And then I'm going to go into the yellow. I don't want much yellow in here, but the yellow is going to be the pollen. I'm going to tap just a little. I have to tap that yellow pollen in the middle, but I didn't want it on the brown. That's why we tapped a little bit of purple in there too. Gotta have that pollen in there. I'm gonna wipe that off. See if you can see that. See that pollen in there? I want a little bit more of the dark around there. I'm gonna have to mix some more purple. I'm like almost out. And so I'm going to slightly outline, just tapping. That's the only way to get this color in there. This is so wet. Just take the purple on the tip of the brush and just lightly tap it around this brown part. See how it stands out? You can see it standing out on that side better than this side. That's how you want to do it. Right up close. And you're tapping so that it doesn't have a uniform shape. Not all the way around, but here and there around parts of it so that you can see this centerpiece just popped out. And you have to have that dark, otherwise you won't be able to see it. And I'm just going to put a little bit more dark right up in here so that it makes it stand out. This is a dark flower. Well, it's the darkest in our bunch, so to speak. Now I'm just kind of scraping off the dark purple where it goes. All right, I'm going to now go into a little red, take a little red, put it over here on the side where the purple is. Just want to add red to it. I want it to look like a red violet. I don't want it to be a really bright red color. Otherwise, it'll take all the attention. Now I'm going to go here and there and place it. Make sure you follow the shape of the petal. Put it here and there. Make sure it's coming off because the paint is super wet and it won't really come off. So you see how it's going on? Just a little. You can see it. Hopefully it's reading good on the camera. We're going to focus on this one first. By it being wet, the red doesn't want to come off, so you may have to press a little hard, which is okay, as long as it's in there. You gotta have that red though. Once you keep putting it on there, I'm noticing mine keeps turning, I have it in here, but when it hit that purple right there, I really lost it. There. It's reading really brightly on the camera. It's not reading that brightly here where I'm looking at it. I can't see it very well. But it's reading on the camera really good. Okay, and when we do that, we want the majority of that in here. And you can put it on where that yellow is too. You don't want the yellow so dominant. Now I'm going to take the remnants of what I have and put just barely kiss the flower back here in the background with it. Just barely touch it here and there. Not much, just barely. And then this one over here, just barely touch it. You see how it looks? It's really nice in there, but you don't want to put much. I think I almost lost this flower here on this bottom. This flower looks like it blended right in with the other one, so I'm not going to worry about that. But you want very little red on these back flowers. The reason being the red paint, red color, and orange, red, and yellow are considered a fiery color, warm. They come forward a lot, and you don't want those in the background to really come forward that much. Okay, let's do this again. I see a lot of yellow on there, on this one. But it looks kind of interesting. I'm kind of liking it, really, to tell you the truth. There's a lot on there. I'm going to take a little of the purple that I do have. I have a little purple, red, purple. And I'm going to put a little on this greenery, the bottom side of it. So that it gives it some character. Otherwise, it looks flat. You do the same thing to the foliage down here on the bottom side of the leaf. I'll put some there. And purple doesn't normally go there, but that's okay. We're going to put that anywhere. Anyway, excuse me. And I'm just lightly putting it on those stems. Lightly putting it on the stems, and it made the stems pop. So I'm going to take that, wash that off. I'm going to take a little of the yellow and put it on the top of the leaf. It's going to act like light popping on it. And if you want to, you can stroke it on some of these stems. Not the whole stem, just part of it. It gives it a whole nother look. This way, your paintings are not one-dimensional and flat, but they cause the eye to kind of dance around and look at all the different colors. I really like the way this is. It turned out. I'm going to add some white now. Not much. Remember when you use white, white is talks about light. So I'm not going to put it everywhere. I'm going to put it on some of the bins. Not much of it, because it will kind of bully its way through the painting. But it's going to give I'm going straight into the white that I have, which I don't have much left, but that's enough. I'm not putting it all over. I'm just putting it on some of the leaves, some parts of the petals rather, so that it will let the viewer rest. It doesn't need to have a lot. It just needs to have enough for the eye to catch it. And if it's white, you can tell there's a difference between the white and the purples, lavenders. There's a big difference. The eye will pick it up. See that? Eye picks it up. It makes it look so much different. That is nice. So there's a lot more yellow in there. Then you can clean your brush off. There's a lot more yellow in there than I wanted, but it actually changed the look of it. Now, what I mean when I say allow your creative voice to do what it's going to do, let's look at what the first thing I gave you. See this? I gave this to you as a sample, told you this is where we're going. I'm looking, there's a lot of the yellows in here, but they're kind of pale. And the red, where I put a lot more red on this background flower, I'm seeing oranges in there, which I didn't want to see the oranges. So that's why I said we're going to be careful about the red and the yellow getting together. But I'm looking at this. It looks, I like the way that looks, but the way we did it here, you see that flower? I like this much better because the colors vary so much more. And when you look at it, there's a greater concentration of color here than in these back ones, which causes those back ones to go in the background and not be so noticeable. That's what you want. I really like this much better with all those different reds and yellows showing up in there. And in person, the whites look really good. It's not that much white, but it's enough for my eyes to rest. Perfect. You never end up with the same painting. Even though you do it more than once, it still looks different. So don't be afraid to allow your creative voice and your artistic voice to create and dream as you make art.